Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us, and SOCTV Maya again. This is it's such an honor to have you all with us. Let's start with Colonel Med Ratana, and tonight we want to hear your story. Share with us, the role that you had during the Secret War and a memory, something, I'm sure there's so many memories, but yeah, we want to hear your story tonight.
Sabadi, Michelle, and the rest of the panel. My name is Med Ratana. I'd like to thank Michelle and David for inviting me into your program. Med Ratana is my name, and I'm a veteran of Royal Lao Army for 14 years. I have been, my last rank was major instead of colonel. This was major, actually. So I took command. I have different assignment, like, command and staff, S3 operation, and also company commander and battalion commander, and finally GM, commander of the Royal Lao Army. I did cooperate and work with the SU, but actually, my whole career is it's with the Royal Lao Army. But I know I have friends, and because the SU are in the Secret War, we know that they're not the origin of the SU or the Secret War or secret operation derived from the conflict, the own conflicts, the Cold War, Indochina War that involved Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam. At the time, Vietnam was divided in two, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. Unfortunately, Laos was supposed to be neutral per, previous, international agreement. But since Laos has over thousands of kilometers of border with Vietnam, that brought Laos into the conflict, by default or whatever. So, the U.S. force has to fight two wars. First, to prevent, the North Vietnamese to take over South Vietnam, but also to stop, the North Vietnamese force to advance to the west and to invade, conquer, the country of Laos, Thailand, Burma, Malaysia, and so on. So, that's why, the U.S. has a sponsor, created, the secret army. They recruit, they train, and they undertake the whole, financial, operational, and they conduct the war themselves. And so they recruit 10,000 of Lao, soldiers, mostly come from the Royal Lao Army as cadre for the troop. So the name comes from, Special Guerrilla Unit, or SCU. So it's actually the operation constitute, army of a secret, army to fight the Vietnamese force. So 10,000 of Lao, joined the force. And they, for several years, there was tremendous loss of life and the family life, destruction of, the property and life, and wounded. So in several years, those people have sacrificed and fight, for the cause that they believe this is the right cause. They fight for the size of the fight for freedom, because at the time, it was the two ideological, force that's come to confront each other, and then those Lao people that fought with the America have to suffer when America left the country, when they withdraw from Vietnam War. So those people, they have to leave the country. They have to flee for their life because of the winning side would brand it as as collaborator of or enemy of the force. So they have to flee for their life, their families, and thousands of people come to America, and that's how the story of the SCU and their family now is it's in this country. They have to cope with a lot of things, but we need to recognize the sacrifice. We need to recognize and for the honor, for the dignity, and I appreciate, David and Lao American the voice to take over the fight and try to get benefit and try to get this action by our hero, to be recognized and if possible to get some benefit that they rightly deserve. That's why we are for. And Chanto also, would tell you more about what they did, what they, and what the action was, and I cooperate with them a lot, because I also was part of the fight, because America, although Laos was a neutral country, but a tacit agreement from the Lao government, let the American operate, and support the whole war effort in Laos. That's why, we are ally of the USA. That's the whole Royal Lao Army was allied, because the America financed, the material, war material, everything, ammunition, they provided by the U.S. forces. So we can say proudly that we were allied to America, to the U.S. force. That's why we own the Lao soldier that need to be recognized. That those who are in this country right now need to be recognized and honored. As contributing to the war effort. And by doing so, we save a lot of American life in South Vietnam, because, we better, combat, those forces along the Ho Chi Minh Trail that go through Laos, and that's one thing that need to be recognized and for those heroic action.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for your service. And we'll talk a little bit more about benefits. It's really hard for me to sit here and listen to the fact that after your service, and it's been 20 years later, we're still fighting for benefits for our veterans,
That's right.
Folks like you who have fought. Lumpao Chanto, we'd love to hear your story. I know that I was able to read an article in the Tampa Bay Times that gave us a little glimpse of how the secret war affected you and your family.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for allowing me to be one of the panel members today. And my name is Chanto Vorosan, former Royal Armed Forces Major. I spent my whole life, 15 years in the military service. After I graduated from military academy and become a junior officer in 1961, then I was sent out to the battlefield for 4 years. So acting as first is assistant company commander, then company commander, and then assistant battalion commander, and then S2 of the mobile group of the brigade. Upon my training in the United States for a couple of times, and then I was then assigned to the Army Supreme Headquarters in Vientiane since 1966 until 1975. And the job I'm actually doing is I'm involved in military intelligence division and acting as the combat intelligence assistant chief of office of bureau. And then the last three years of my service in intelligence division, I was nominated as chief of administration of Lao Armed Forces Intelligence Division. Unfortunately, after the communists took over in 1975, I was taken as prisoner of war for 11 years, from 1975 up until early 1986. Upon my release, I fled with my whole family to Thailand and then resettled in the United States in August 7, 1987. I just want to go back a little bit about what I'm doing while I was in the front line. The first 4 years of my career officer, infantry officer. As you know, I was operated most of my 4 years in the battlefield located in 3rd Military Region. It means in Kham Mueang Province and Savanakhet Province. And then after that, while I was assigned as Assistant Intelligence Officer in the Army Supreme Headquarters Intelligence Division, my primary job is to, every day I have to collect information from every part of the country, of every military region. Then I make an assessment and then make an analysis and then write a daily report to the higher Supreme Headquarters. That's my primary and daily work assignment. Okay. Now, in case of them, when the situation is very critical in any military region front line, sometimes I have to assign for like a couple of weeks into that front line and work with the front line commander, operation commander in the area, and then come back to the headquarters. And also, while I was acting as a assistant office member, I was also doing the daily briefing every day, intelligence briefing in the Army Supreme Headquarters, as well as acting as a liaison with the U.S. Army Attaché Office and the Area Attaché in Vientiane. So those are my primary job when I was in the Army. So my most unfortunate time in life was being captured and sent to the prison for 11 years. As you know, the prison camp in Laos, it's just like every other prison camp in the world. We have to do the hard work, no medication, under fair condition, and there's no outside world contact. So my life at that time was completely, hopeless. So unfortunately, upon my release, and then we were able to flee with the whole family. And while I was in Thailand for about a year, I was hired by the U.S. Embassy as interpreter, INS and EAO officer interpreter in the camp. So when I came to the United States, I had to start from zero again from my life. Bare hands, but full of hopes, and still have some good thing in mind. So I spent my first 4 years in universities, and then after that, when I got my U.S. citizen, and then I was fortunate enough to be hired as a French teacher in Lithuania High School in Georgia for 15 years. And then I retired at age 70 in 2013. Then now I'm moving down and stay, with my children in St. Petersburg, Florida. Right now, basically, I'm working with the community service and as the chairman of the board of directors of the Lao Arts and Cultural Foundation in St. Peters, Florida, that we have a very good plan in trying to restoring this place as a World Heritage Center in St. Petersburg. So anyone who is who have a chance to visit Florida and St. Petersburg, please swing by to visit us at the center. It's at 4000 09058 Avenue, North St. Petersburg, Florida. Please come by and visit us. Now I'm living surrounded by my 7 children together in Pinellas County, Florida. And then I'm very pleased to be able to have a chance to join the club and have a chance to express how my life has been going on in the past. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lung, and thank you again for your service and an incredible story and being reunited with your family after being apart and having to and being imprisoned, and again also very hard to hear that after so many years still fighting for benefits for folks like you who served in the war. And so, David, you are co-founder of the Laotian American National Voice and also co-chair of the organization Secret War Veterans Benefit. And so I know your father served in the war, but for you, it's not only personal, but the advocacy is community-wide. You're doing so much to fight for benefits and access to benefits for our Lao American veterans. Tell us, what's missing? How is the country not taking care of folks like Lumpur, Med, and Chanto?
Yeah, so it comes back to the fact that there's the word secret in front of war. And the secret war implies that there's been a lot of documentations by the CIA that have been largely classified. And so it's not released to the public. It's not readily known to the public. But the CIA has started to declassify a lot of information now. So there's been numerous books written about it. There's been movies made about it. So it's not as popular as what you've seen in Cambodia, for example, with the Pol Pot regime. That obviously has its own challenges. But in particular with the secret war, there's not a whole lot that's known about it. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like Paul Med said, Laos declared itself a neutral country. So based on the Geneva Convention, no foreign nationals could be in Laos. And so they found their way into the operations by doing covert operations. 1954, French commandos landed in the plain of Jars. And then, of course, the CIA operations supporting the French regime, which is an ally to the U.S. at the time, and still is a U.S. ally. And so the United States was involved in that war as well, too. So when I was younger, I didn't know very much about it, Michelle. In fact, my first time to discover about the Secret War was my high school year. I was in the library, I got bored, and I pulled down a book and I started reading a little bit more about the Secret War. Learned some basic facts about it, but it wasn't until more recently with my involvement with the Secret War Veterans Benefits that I've gotten to know Paul Med, Paul Chanto, and many other veterans as well, too. And so, you mentioned earlier that my father did fight in the Secret War. He was in the Scorpion Unit, also known as the Suicide Unit. And so, I'm helping our veterans to seek for benefits for them to receive what's entitled to them because they were an extension of the CIA forces. But it's been a long, hard journey for our veterans. I mean, they've been fighting for recognition for over 20 years. They made some gains along the way, but most of it is ceremonial gestures. So what I mean by that is I'll just give you a little bit of a history here. So in 1990, the Lao Veterans of America was formed. So you see my virtual background there. My dad was honored and received a certificate for that. In 1997, there was a monument that was erected in Arlington National Cemetery by Lao Veterans of America to honor Laotian and Hmong veterans. And then 3 years later, there was a passing of the Hmong Veterans Act. And in this one here, Lao and Hmong veterans were honored again. They led the parade from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial past the White House down Pennsylvania Avenue and then to the United States Capitol. In 2002, there was a House resolution, HR 406, that recognized Laotian and Secret War guerrilla units in participation with the CIA. And so you think about when the war ended, 1975, and 2002. In 2002, we finally got a resolution from Congress to recognize the Secret War veterans' participation with the CIA operations. And so you can imagine the general public not knowing about this, which is simply because of the way the CIA had handled it. And then in 2014, the Senate resolution was passed to recognize the Secret War veterans, and this one was done by Senator Marco Rubio. And in 2015, there was a joint House resolution that was to support the designation of the National Lao Hmong Recognition Day. And then 2 years after that, we have a House resolution again to recognize now the Khmer, the Laotian and Hmong and Montagnards that were supporting and defending the United States forces in Southeast Asia, because you can't just talk about the Vietnam War in isolation to just in the borders of Vietnam. It was a spreading of the communism throughout that entire region. So you have so many different countries involved in this. So finally, in 2017, there was a House resolution to recognize all those Secret War veterans. It wasn't until 2018 when our veterans received something that's very tangible. So for the very first time, and this was passed in the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2018, where they would allow Secret War veterans to be buried in the national cemeteries. However, there was a problem with that bill. It was passed on a very, very narrow focus, and it left the vast majority of our Secret War veterans out. And the way to qualify our veterans at the time was that you would have to be naturalized under the Hmong Recognition Act. And so if you were naturalized prior to 2000, you wouldn't qualify. If you naturalized after 2000, you wouldn't qualify. It was a specific finite in time. And as a result of that, it left out a lot of our veterans. 2 years after that, in 2020, we had a call with John Pence, who honored our Secret War veterans. We had 1 week to pull all of this together, and it's just amazing what we did. Within a week, we were able to pull in over 2,000 people that dialed into the call into the system. I mean, so many people were dialing in that we actually crashed the system. I think they lost count after 2,000. So what is it that we're trying to do today when I say, well, we got to start to clean up the bill? A new legislation that we want to pass here is to really clean up the shortfalls that we saw in 2008 Consolidated Appropriations Act. And it's just so to give you a rough idea of who qualifies at the time. So it would be defined as any individual who was naturalized pursuant to section of the Hmong Veterans Naturalization Act of 2020. So that was, from 2000. So that was passed in 2000. And then, of course, they have to reside in the United States. And, upon their passing, they would apply for the burial rights. But there again, this window of time in 2000, it closes very, very quickly. Word didn't get out to our veterans, and therefore many, many people were left out. Many, many veterans were left out. So I'll just touch a little bit on how we're going to fix this, or what we call the cleanup bill. So the cleanup bill here is really going to be for any individual who is naturalized citizen of the United States or a lawful admitted alien to the United States with permanent residence in the United States that served as combatants in the Special Guerrilla Unit or irregular forces operating out within the base of Laos under the command of the U.S. ambassador to Laos or the CIA, that Central Intelligence Agency, in support of the United States foreign policy. And so this is really important because the previously passed legislation only focused on those that were naturalized. What we're saying is that it should also apply to lawful aliens as well, and it should not matter when they were naturalized. So that makes it a little bit more broad-based. Yeah. And we want to make sure, sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing with you. I mean, if you served. And if you're an ally of the U.S. and fought alongside the U.S., I mean, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. And I hope that our senators and Congress men and women who are watching the show, I hope you're shaking your head in agreement with us as well too. One of the most difficult things about the secret war, not just the secret war in itself, but about refugees that come from Laos. Oftentimes when we leave the country, we don't have time to pack. We just grab our clothes, what we have on our back, and we just left the country. And so it's almost difficult in many ways when we came to the refugee camp to prove your birth certificate, your records of services. So a lot of these things were kind of left behind. And so we want to make it easy as much as possible to say that not only are you a U.S. citizen and you served between 1968 to 1975, but you can also qualify if you have original documents, if you or you have an affidavit from your superior, or you have 2 affidavits from the individuals that serve with you in your unit, and any other appropriate documents to prove that you did serve during that time and you were part of the SGU unit. So when I say appropriate documents, what I'm referencing here is when we came to the refugee camp, it's a 2-year vetting period. So any individuals that claim to be part of the military forces or fought in the SGU, they have to go through a series of tests and be certified by the CIA, right? So some of that documentation we know exists within the immigration department, but these departments are not talking to each other. And so we want to encourage the CIA, the Secretary of War, to be able to contact the Immigration Services Department and say, give us all of the documents you have on these individuals that are applying for burial rights. They need to be able to certify them. And of course, we also want to make it so that the spouses, right, the spouses of the veterans, they know their husband, they know where they're out on mission, right? Take their testimony, take their affidavit. That should count as well too. And the other thing that we also want to solve as part of the previously passed legislation is that it only gives burial rights or a plot of land. Michelle, as you know, in our culture, most of us go through cremation. So what we're asking for here is not a giant, a big plot of land. We're basically looking for a small area in the National Cemetery Mausoleum where the remains of the veterans can be stored in there as an urn. So we're hoping that because of the limited amount of space, land that's available in national cemeteries, what we're proposing here would be more likely acceptable because we're not asking for 6 feet of land, right? It's just maybe 6 or 7 inches of within the mausoleum. So with all that said, I know there's a lot to take in. With all that said, my closing comment to this is that the secret war is really an extension of the Vietnam War. The operation was within the borders of Laos. So even though it was in a different country, it had a different label to it. They call it the secret war. But what it really is just the extension of the Vietnam War. And the communist Northern Vietnamese forces, like Paul Lumet said, they were transporting supplies through Laos so they can get down to South Vietnam to bypass the parallel line where the defense was with the US military forces. They carved into the borders of Laos along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and they were bringing supplies down to South Vietnam. So that's why when you look at the history books, there's a lot of bombing along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And for that reason, they were doing that to cut off the supplies from the North Vietnamese going to the south. And so the SGU forces were formed as part of the CIA military strategy to combat against the North Vietnamese. So they went and they recruited Hmong, Mien, Khmer, many different ethnic groups in Laos, and they also recruited Royal Lao Army military personnel for the CIA operations. So the CIA wanted to launch an offensive using SGU units in Region 2, which is the northern part of Laos, and also in Region 3 and 4 along the border of Vietnam towards Pak Se, towards the south where the heavy fighting was. And then they would launch U.S. military Navy forces from the Gulf of Tonkin to squeeze in the North Vietnamese from all sides, right? From the sea, from the north, from the south, and also from the borders of Laos. However, because of political pressure in the Vietnam War at home, this plan was abandoned. But we had a great deal of military forces that were forming up for that assault. So during that time, I want all of us to remember that, our SU veterans rescued American pilots. They supported and defended U.S. military personnel, right? So when we talk about the Vietnam War, without talking, we can't talk about the Secret War. When we talk about the Secret War, we have to talk about the Vietnam War as well. So I want to impress upon all of our viewing audience that your support of the burial rights for our Secret War veterans is the same as you supporting the Vietnam veterans, right? So we need your support from the general public. We need you to write to your congressmen and to your senators to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And very quickly, just to wrap up our segment, and it's not enough time, by the way. I mean, we need to be telling more of our stories, and there's going to be a way in which we can do that going forward, and including Lao history in the textbooks. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But very quickly, if people want to find out more information and hear more stories from our veterans, where can they do that? Your website.
Yeah, we have a website, the Royal Lao Army website. It's you'll go in there. There'll be different menus in there, yeah. So you can click on the Secret War Veterans Benefits.
Yeah, the website. What's the website?
Oh, the website. Right. Let me pull that up here. 1 second. I should have had it down, but I don't. Let me just go back here and pull it up. So it is UnitedRoyalLaoVeterans.org. So again, that's UnitedRoyalLaoVeterans.org.
At this time, I want to ask Ali and Polly to come back on to help us say goodbye to all of you. Thank you so much for your service, and thank you for continuing to fight and put our history out there and make sure people know that we need to take care of our Lao American veterans as well. So deep to all of you, Paul Lung and David, and for all your work.
Okay.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you so much
for having me.
That's right.
Deep took on.
So deep dah.
Yeah. What a wonderful story. Thank you, our veterans, for your service. Up next is Bobby Udinarat of Lao SD and Alex C. Livat of Ninja Foods, yum, right? Who are very active in sharing Lao culture and history.
Bobby, Alex, Sok Di Bimai, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Bye, Bimai.
Wow, that was a lot. To take in.
Though. Yeah.
And, as far as the stories from the Secret War veterans, but Bobby, you play a very important role in making sure that people like me and the generations after really know our history and how much Lao Americans are a part of the U.S. politics. Tell us about AB 1393.
Sure. Thank you so much, first and foremost, Michelle, for having me and LAOSD here to talk about and share LAOSD's platform and specifically AB 1393. So I really appreciated the stories from Lung Chanto and Lung Met that we just heard about, because that's direct evidence of our involvement, Lao Americans' involvement in the Vietnam War, the Secret War. And so to understand AB 1393, you have to go back to understanding a bill that passed. SB 895 passed in August of 2018. And what SB 895 stated was that in the K through 12 California curriculum school system, they would teach the Vietnam American refugee stories. They would teach the Cambodian genocide stories, the Hmong history and cultural studies. So when we heard about this, the Lao Americans up and down the state and all over were very excited for the Southeast Asian communities. We said, finally, we can be brought into the conversation and represented as part of American history with what we deserve. And with that said, AB 1393 was a response for the omission of inclusion of Lao Americans, Laos as a country being involved in the Vietnam War, in the secret war that you just heard about. And AB 1393 was a response and a cleanup bill for SB 895. And so Lao SD was an organization that was born to respond to and create this cleanup bill. And big shout out to San Diego, because that's where this all started. But I also want to give credit to all of the Lao American leaders up and down the state of California who were very much a part of and helped us drive for the bipartisan unanimous support and approval of AB 1393 that was submitted. And so at this point, I will share that AB 1393 was put on pause because of the controversies related to ethnic studies that happened in late 2019. But what's exciting, and I'm super happy to share, is that ethnic studies in March, this spring of 2021, was approved. And what that is opening up is pathways and lanes back for conversations with AB 1393. And so what Lao SD would like to share with you all is that we're going to come back into the conversation and scene full force. This is where Lao Americans can really advocate, support, and join the mission, because AB 1393 is going to open up more than just inclusion for us into the K through 12 curriculum. It will connect and heal past traumas for our fathers, our grandparents. Stories like Uncle and Lung, Med, and Chanto that you just heard about, they will have a chance to heal, and it will also make the younger generations today feel and know that we are here, we're welcome here. This is now our country. Initially, we didn't choose to leave our birthland. Nobody wants to leave their birthland. But because Laos made a call to help humanity fight the spread of communism, our country was destroyed. We either had to leave and seek a better life in America or stay and die. The Lao Americans that you all know and live and are thriving here today made that decision to leave. And as a result, we are here, we're thriving, and we want to fight for inclusion and voice. And so when our children, our present children, see our history, it will absolutely help them thrive. And so that's really AB 1393 in a nutshell. What I also want to highlight here and take the time to also elevate is our youth leaders. We have Lao SD's platform is to build succession planning. So it's not enough that we have to advocate for the Lao American community today, but we have to build succession planning and make sure we're highlighting, elevating youth leadership so that they can continue to bear the torch and take on the baton. And so today I actually want to take some time to highlight our creative director, Sarita Suri, who is, I'm super proud of her work. She is doing the this documentary that you probably have seen the trailer for, Come Undone. And this documentary will connect the past, talk about the present, and show us the future is bright. Unlike past documentaries that have been done on the Vietnam War, the Secret War, refugee experiences, it focused mostly on the traumas related to the incidences and the war. This documentary is going to focus around the Lao spirit, the strength, the courage, the perseverance, and how through all of that, we're here, we're thriving. And, especially in today's climate where anti-Asian hate is happening, it's really relevant to tell our story and show that America is our home too, and we matter. And in that, it's okay to celebrate your heritage. It's okay to be proud of your heritage. And at the same time, be proud to be American. And together, being Lao American makes you that much more powerful and strong. And in our landscape that we have today, we have a lot of Lao Americans in the spaces of, all the different professions, right? I mean, here alone, we see entrepreneurs like Alex. We see you, Michelle, talk show host, right? Entertainer. We see in the panel here alone, representation of thriving Lao Americans who are contributing to the American fabric. And so that's why it's important to speak about SB 895, how AB 1393 is a cleanup bill, and then together with the upcoming documentary that our creative director, Sarita Suri, is working on and will be showcased in a couple months here, it opens up the conversation with our Lao American communities, but also together with mainstream non-Lao Americans, because it's not enough to just talk about it amongst ourselves and socialize that. I think it's important for us to know about our history, but it is critical and essential that non-Lao Americans also understand, and together in this climate of diversity, inclusion, this will help everybody and will help make the US, will help make the world a better place for all. The last thing I want to do a little shout out for too is for those who may not be aware of and know the work of Lao SD. I did want to highlight a few things. And so in very short order, when we formed as a response to SB 89 to AB 1393 in a year and a pandemic year, we were able to be the first Lao American organization, nonprofit organization, to get unanimous bipartisan support of a legislative bill. And from that, we were trailblazers and set the tone and stage for other communities in other states to follow suit. And from that, they've taken it as an example and done the same things at different states for different reasons. Lao SD also brought Census 2020 into the conversation, made registration and voting awareness campaigns. We also successfully hosted and launched the biggest refugee fundraiser for Lao American community. So lots of highlights, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And so as I sit here, I want to encourage and welcome Lao American youth, Lao American community to more than ever speak up and stand up for our rights and causes important to our community. And only when we can stand up together, lock arms, and ask for the things that we want in life, can we make the big step momentum into the right direction, coupled with supporters from the outside communities. The future is bright for us Laotian Americans, but it absolutely will begin with the completion of AB 1393, which we will continue conversation in the coming year here. So thank you, Michelle. I know that's a lot of sharing from Lao SD and all the things that we're working on, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to be part of this important panel and celebrate Lao New Year with everyone.
So. Yeah, celebrate Lao New Year, our culture, our history. Bobby, thank you so much, and to Lao SD for all the work that you are doing to carry on our history. And I know, Bobby, you're also a foodie, and you mentioned this actually in your talk, the speech that you just made. But sharing our culture is so important because it connects us to other people. And Lao food, Lao food, I feel like there is a movement, by the way, and Alex will talk about it. We're starting to get the spotlight, which I'm so excited and happy for. But even that was a little bit of a secret because Americans were thinking of Lao food as if it was Thai food, and it's not. It's Lao food. So, Alex, I said it earlier, to have the first national brand of instant papaya sauce.
Yeah.
Dream come true for a second generation Lao American like me, where I can just throw it in there and mix it all up. Tell us about this instant papaya salad sauce.
Well, before I get started with the Ninja sauce, I just wanted to add that Ninja Foods was also, a part of supporting Lao SD too. We actually went to support their events out in San Diego. So we just saw that it was something really great that they were doing, trying to put Lao history in the curriculum in California. And then we also had hopes that maybe if they got that passed in California, it would go nationwide, and Arkansas would have it too. So, so that's something really great and that we're proud of that they're doing also. So our papaya sauce. Okay, so it just kind of started out on by accident. How we came about, it was we started with me and my wife. She was busy working that day, and I was just kind of bored because I already had all my work done. And then I was just looking through the fridge, and there was like a Thai instant papaya sauce that came from Thailand, and we tasted it, and we're like, "Oh, this is great, but we don't have anything here in the US, and nobody really knows about this brand." It's like, I think this is something we can do because we already love to eat papaya salad. So I just put something together that day and had her taste it. And she was like, "Oh, this is great. I think we have a great product here." And I was like, is this going to work? Is people really going to eat this? Because like you said, our Lao food is really behind Thai food. We have Lao food in Thai restaurants, but we really don't call it Lao food. It's like a secret menu or something like that. So, yeah. And so we took a jump with it and came out with the product. I have our product here with this, and it actually worked. I tried a lot of things, being an entrepreneur, I did probably 10 different things and it never worked. And this kind of worked out for us, so I think we called it, what was it? I forgot what we call it, but something like gold sauce or something like that. Yeah, that whenever we make big batches of these, we're we better protect this with our whole life because it's like gold. So yeah, we're in 50 states right now. I've been in business for 5 years. I think almost 6 years. 6 years this year. So yeah, it's doing great. So.
I say, you haven't had the real papaya salad unless you've had Lao papaya salad, because Bobby, I think that you can add to this that papaya salad is actually Lao food, isn't it?
Papaya salad, and actually I posted this the other day, and I dedicated my post to the Lao sisters. I said, Lao papaya salad is food of the goddesses. Story. And anyone watching here, if you're a non-Lao sister, let me tell you something. You haven't lived until you've tried the savory, the sweet, the sour, the pet
umami,
spicy.
Yes,
I will tell you, it's a party for sure. And if you haven't tried it, I invite you to try it. And I promise you, it is the food of the goddesses.
Okay, we actually have a video of the food of the goddesses. We'll give you an idea of what real papaya salad is. So let's roll that video.
Yeah, that video was made by Sang Domdala. He's a YouTuber and a cook. I think he's from California too, the LA area. Yeah, he made that for us. So he did great with that.
Okay, what's the secret sauce? So can you tell us?
Yeah, the ingredients are all back here. It's no secret. It's just there's fish sauce in here, limes, chili peppers, sugar, shrimp paste, crab paste, salt. It's not salt, it's just salt added with the crab. So, and then MSG. Yeah, you got to have your MSG. It's not going to be sap. So
there's actually controversy around MSG right now. Do you know about this?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Of course, because our product has MSG in it. And I think anything in moderation, even if you intake sugar or salt, too much of that is not good for you. So anything in moderation, I think you'll be good. You'll be fine. Yeah, you got to have some flavor.
So explain the fish sauce part, because I think, some people might mistake it as just the watered down vinaigrette. They can call it that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is actually, it's almost like how you would make it at home. It's really pungent. So a lot of people, whenever they order this and they like, ooh, I smelled it from miles away. This has got to be good, because it's really pungent. We made it like just how we would eat it at home. Salad is, it's hard to get right, and everybody has different flavors. Sometimes they have, a sweet flavor or a sour flavor or salty. And so it's really hard to get correct. And so we just put it in a jar for everybody to make it easier for them. So, yeah. And also it's versatile too. A lot of people use it as a barbecue marinade. And also you could use it as the fermented fish sauce, like badak, to put in gang no mai, the bamboo soup thing. Or they use it as a dipping sauce. A lot of our Vietnamese customer uses that spring roll dipping sauce. So there's no wrong way to use ninja sauce besides papaya salad. So
okay,
people get creative.
For both of you, and I think for the longest time, at least for me, badak or Lao food was a secret because I was kind of scared and ashamed to share it. It's funk and the kids when I used to try to share my food when I was a kid. School would tell me that it smells. Of course it does. But how did you both overcome that and reclaim the food as your pride and joy?
I've always been very cultured, so it wasn't really hard for me, but I know it was hard for other people. When I was younger, I was the only Asian kid at my school. And so people would be really intrigued and like wanting to know, where you're from. And, I love to share. I would teach them how to speak Lao and share the food. And they love anything barbecue, and the sticky rice is yum. And then a lot of my the Mexican friends, they love the spiciness of it. So I would always share the food with them in this area. And it's Arkansas, it's out in the boonies. We really don't have a lot of diversity here until just recently, maybe about 10 years ago. And growing up, we would have culture day and stuff. I'd always bring papaya salad, share it with everybody, and people would love it. Sometimes we think they're scared of it because it's going to be different, but I think you just, share what you're eating, and they like it, they like it. They don't like it, and that's fine too. So I have no problem with just sharing Lao food and Lao culture with everybody. I just love it. I think it's beautiful. So
it's awesome. Bobby?
Yeah, I would agree. For me, it's about presentation. So the food always has to look beautiful. It has to be good. And I like to introduce our food in moderation and in small portion and almost acclimate them a little at a time.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. Exactly. And the other thing that I've done with fish sauce, for example, is describe it in a way to something similar or familiar that they're aware of. So when I introduce fish sauce, I'll talk about it as a flavoring agent like anchovies in Caesar salad, like anchovies in a puttanesca, Italian dish. And so when you describe it in ways that they can understand, then they get excited. And plus, I lead it up to it and I explain to them and get them all excited and jazzed up with pictures and the history. And by the time they eat it, they can appreciate it and have the history and the connection. So I've yet to have anybody say, no, thank you. Everyone has been a lover of what I've introduced to them. And I will share with you guys a funny story. I did break up with a boyfriend in college because he was not open to. So all the single men and ladies out there, if you're not open to trying new things, you're missing out on something that could be fabulous.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
Yes. If they love you, they have to love all of you, including your badak too.
And I say, well, how else do you think we got so sexy? It's about
young, we never grow old. No,
we're gonna live forever.
It's the spice.
But Bobby, really quick, you have the two most adorable boys and growing. One I think is preteen now. I follow you on social media, but I love seeing posts of them, and you do such a great job. I assume so because they love Lao food and they're very into Lao culture. They're going to be fourth generation Lao Americans?
No, actually, that's the surprising thing. Most people think I've been here a long time, but actually I'm a first generation. I was born in Laos. I came here when I was 6 years old. And it's so important to teach your children and future generations about your heritage and culture. I do this every day with my children. I teach them, I introduce to them our culture, our food. They're involved with me with community service initiatives that help Lao Americans, but also help other communities too. I'm huge on diversity and inclusion. And I really talk with them about a full spectrum of how it's important to help others. And that is love is the key to humanity's problems. And so I go back to that. And for me, it's about making sure they understand and will forever be proud of their Lao American heritage. You can't be who you are without knowing where you came from. So that's why I do what I do with my children, and they love it. Their favorite, simple, but their favorite remains sticky rice with Lao beef jerky, sin savan. And I make it into little balls with the meat on top, and they will eat that up and ask for 2 more plates. So that's why, Michelle, but I really appreciate you bringing that up because they are my heart.
Yeah. And Alex, the same thing kind of for you. I don't know if you have children, but you obviously are bringing Lao culture, Lao food into many kitchens, many homes. And so your final thoughts on making sure that we just share all this goodness.
Yeah, I just say, we're checking in a positive way right now with everybody coming out, wanting to be more Lao. Back then, I think about 10 or 20 years ago, nobody knew where Laos was. And now we're trending in TV, in music, in food, in almost everything. And so whatever we are doing right now is great. And I think we should keep that up, speak Lao in the home, teach your kids about the culture, have them eat the food, and just, keep going at it. And one day they won't ask, where's Laos at? So, yeah.
That's so awesome. Alex, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us. And Sabaydi Pimai, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Ninja Foods, Lao SD, check them out. Make sure you follow their work. And of course, if you're in California, let's push for AB 1393 and support the work of Lao SD. And you can find, this instant papaya salad sauce at an Asian store near you. It's Ninja Foods. So we'll see you both next time. We're going to take a quick, short break, so don't go away. There's so much more to come.
Thank you, Bobby and Alex, for all the work in making sure Lao history and culture is being shared. Up next is Nang Pi, or horror films, with the first and only female film director in Laos, Maddie Du.
นี้เธอได้ยินเสียงคนห้องปะมันเหงาหลายใดนับตั้งแต่เริ่มตาบอดเมื่อหนึ่งที่ตื่นขึ้นมาคือโลกหน่วยนี้มันแคบลงนับตั้งแต่เสียสายตาคิดว่าเห็นภาพหลอนตอนที่มาดามบอกถึงเลขนะมันหมายความว่าตั้งไหนเลขอย่าง
ได้แก่364ฟังอีกทีนึง364
ลูกเห็นแม่มาตัวพันมีแต่เลือดและสิ่งที่มันบอกมันก็บ่มีความหมาย
ลูกสาวแม่เราเคยเห็นบ่
เดี๋ยวนี้พวกเขาฮู้แล้วว่าเราตายแล้วอยากให้เจ้าพาพวกเขาไปหาศพเราได้ยินไทยบ้านเขาซาว่าเจ้าสามารถลมกับวิญญาณได้ก็เลยอยากให้เจ้าหันซอยถามวิญญาณเราเบิ่งว่าศพของเราอยู่ไสตายไปแล้วก็บ่มีหยังเปลี่ยนแปลงคนเป็นบ้าก็ยังเป็นบ้าคือเก่า
Sabaidi, Maddie, Sokti, Bimai, thank you so much for joining us from Laos. Are you in Vientiane?
From actual Laos, yeah. From Vientiane, Sabaidi, Sokti, Bimai.
How's it going over there with New Year's? What's it like right now?
To be honest, it's subdued because anybody who's ever been to Laos during New Year times, like I was telling you earlier, it's wild. It's like Cancun has never seen anything like it. And this year, it feels almost normal because you hear, if you listen really closely, you can hear like loud parties on our street, but they're only house parties. So we're not shutting down like the streets. We didn't shut down the entire Riverside. There's no concert.
By the way, you look gorgeous. It looks like you made a really nice dinner. So I'm glad nobody splashed water on you because that's a really beautiful.
I know, I would be so angry if someone got this silk. It's like my friend wove this for me. It's like one of my like most favorite special pieces. Like she's actually been given the position to like preserve our weaving habits and our weaving arts with all the tribal ethnicities and etc. too. So her boutique is called Khang Silk Gallery, Khang. Her name is Vien Khang. And before she did Khang, her and her sister had a super famous silk shop called Peng Mai.
You actually lived here in the U.S. You were born in the U.S. and you moved back to Laos. Let's start there and the decision to move back to Laos.
It wasn't like an active decision or anything. I came to see my dad because I thought my dad was going nuts. You know, like we lost our mother when I was about 25, and my dad was going back and forth between Thailand, Laos, and America. And he was just lonely. So he was like trying to get hooked up. And the first wife that he had was not a fun situation. They were not compatible. And then, so he came back to the States and just realized he wasn't happy at home. It felt like he was just, you know, festering in the home where my mother passed away. So he went back to Laos, and we were all really worried because we're like, you want to go back to the place where you met mom? Like, that's going to make you even more sad, like the nostalgia, right? And turns out like he ended up meeting someone else here, and we just wanted to like make sure it wasn't going to be the same situation where he was just like jumping in head first, you know, not really thinking about whether they were good for each other or not. And so we had an intervention, like my family had an intervention, and my brothers were like, we can't leave. We can't go to Laos because we have government jobs. And I was the artist. I was a ballet dancer. I was a ballet teacher. And at that time I had just like gone through a really stressful period where I like had a changeover of directorship at our ballet conservatory, and I needed a break. So I was like, fine, me and Chris, the writer who could just take a laptop, we'll go to Laos and check on dad. And it was meant to be only like a summer thing. But we took our dog with us. And since my dog was already there, we realized like, there was really little that like was calling us back. And, you know, dad didn't need a lot of care, but dad needed someone to look, you know, just keep an eye on him. And then it turned out that like, we ended up settling here, not because we were like, oh, I want to go back to Laos or I want to rediscover Laos. Like by no means, we totally did it out of necessity. Yeah. Out of necessity and family.
Yeah. So you kind of rolled into Laos in this way, but you also kind of rolled into filmmaking. It's not like, I mean, you know, a lot of people think, or they have this dream where they're going to be the first female president. They're going to be the first, female astronaut to land on a different planet. I don't think that it was in your, it was part of your dream that you set out this goal to become the first and only female film director in Laos.
It all just kind of happened and fell into place and was very accidental. And so honestly, like my background in ballet conservatory and ballet performance transitioned super well. It transitioned really well into filmmaking, but that was never the intention or the goal. And honestly, Michelle, I think that going to Laos without any expectation helped a lot.
I mean, was there anything about moving to Laos and then taking up a whole new different career direction that posed maybe not a challenge, but something new or different that you had to adjust to?
I mean, the work ethic in Laos is very different. And that was a very difficult adjustment for me. I think many foreigners find the work ethic adjustment super difficult, but I think what was hardest was because I was coming from a ballet background, which was very Russian, and the discipline and the strictness and the harshness, the bluntness in the way we speak to each other in ballet was very difficult for Lao people to transition to in the beginning. So when I first started working in Laos, I think that there were a lot of people that were really taken aback by my very forward and direct attitude. I mean, and my personality naturally, even without ballet, is very much like that anyway. I think that was the most difficult adjustment. Of course, language, like we always, the language has evolved a lot since the early 70s and the late 60s. And people don't realize that. Like if you were to speak to someone from 1960s America, they'd be like saying, Ruby, you're one cool cat. And you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Right. And that's how Lao Americans speak. Like Lao Americans are still like doi kanoi and stuff like that. We never use the word kanoi anymore.
You don't?
You say kanoi. Never.
Okay, wait.
If you use the word kanoi, they're like, what are you, from some kind of period film? Like,
I want to talk about this because my wife is Thai-san, so she's from Udon. But when she heard me speak, Laolish, whatever Lao that I have, she was giggling. She was like, "You sound like an elderly person. Like who taught you how to speak Lao?" So you don't use kanoi anymore?
Elderly. You sound like a period film to us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like with the princesses, like Bridgerton. You guys sound like freaking Bridgerton.
I wanted to know, like, if any of the storylines if they were inspired by your personal stories.
Gently less so, but Dear Sister and Long Walk both are heavily inspired by my real life. Dear Sister was from an experience that my mother had where she had a dream, like a nightmare, I guess, of her aunt. I mean, we called her aunt, but I think she's actually a cousin, an older cousin, visiting her. And it was so scary. Like, she was pale and wet and trying to speak to my mother, and she looked really cold and she couldn't speak to my mother. So my mother woke up and was just like freaking out. And so we all woke up because my mother was doing stuff around the house and woke us up. And when we asked her what was going on, she said like she'd had this nightmare about her aunt coming to visit her. And her aunt was basically her adoptive mother. Like, she took care of her in Vientiane. And my mother would go home on weekends to take care of her other siblings. But she went to school and lived at this woman's house and grew up there. And we were just like, okay, so you had a bad dream, just like go to bed, whatever. And it was in the middle of the night in the States. I remember this like super clearly. It was before my little brother was born. And as we were all going back in our rooms, after my dad reassured her it was nothing, then the phone rang, and it's like 2 or 3 a.m., Michelle. And it was our relatives here calling her to tell her that our relative had passed away and had been caught in a storm and died of exposure. So she fell into the river, and then her husband dragged her out. And while they weathered out the storm, the wife died from exposure because the temperature drop was too extreme, and she was wet. So she died of hypothermia. And it stuck out in my head, like always, that my mother had this visitation, but it wasn't like, how would you define that? It wasn't even really a ghost or a spiritual visitation. It was almost like a premonition. Do you know what I mean? Because she knew that my aunt had passed away before she had passed away. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is so odd. That sounds like when people have twins and they realize that their twin is under duress or something, that's what it reminded me of. And so that's where Dear Sister came from. Whereas Long Walk is heavily based on my mother herself passing away. And she had cancer and had to, she refused treatment. And it was like stage 3 cancer. So like there was nothing that could have been done. She said, why would I stay alive with chemotherapy and in pain when the doctors have already basically said like it's not treatable, like it's spread through my body. So you milk out a few more weeks of me being alive, but in complete agony. Like, no, just let me go. When the time comes, you'll know, but I don't want to pursue treatment. And then after we moved to Laos, that dog that I told you about, Mango, who moved to Laos with us, he passed away when he was about 17 in 2016. And it affected us so much because it sounds disrespectful, but it reminded me of my mother too. He also had cancer, and he couldn't tell us that he was in pain. He couldn't tell us when it was time for him to go. And my husband and I had to choose to euthanize him, which is really difficult in Laos, by the way, because of our Buddhist nature in Laos. And so we made the decision. But Michelle, it plagues us to this day. We're like, you feel this guilt, like, did I do the right thing? Like, that dog can't ask us. Mango can't tell us that it's time to go, and that's where Long Walk came from, with that whole, like, that dark feeling of regret and grief and the euthanasia sprinkled through it.
Well, do you think that you've opened the doors now for future female filmmakers in Laos?
I think I've proved that you don't have to have a penis hanging between your legs to make a film. I do think that I've done that pretty well here. I have this profile that I recorded for my friend once where I was like, you don't need cock and balls to make a film because nobody's hanging their camera off of that. Like, seriously, it would be so uncomfortable to try and hang a 20-pound camera rig off of that. Like, just don't need that. You don't need that. Neither does it affect the way you think or tell a story, right? So I do think that in that regard, I have like trained so many women into key positions here in Laos. I have not found the one who is going to be able to do a feature film like I have yet. But then like my assistant, who is my line producer or unit production manager, she keeps us all alive on set. Like she puts out all the fires that we start. She's the one who's organizing everything. Like she is God on set. And she started out just being the young girl from the company that would just bring our lunch to us. Like she would just show up at 12 and like bring us food. And then she'd show up again at 6:30 and bring us more food. And that's how she started in Gently. And now you'll see her name in the credits for Dearest Sister and in Long Walk, that she's like the freaking unit production manager. It's insane. And the girl that first started out as an intern on Dearest Sister for wardrobe was our key wardrobe girl. Like our key wardrobe, she not designed because a lot of costumes are required. She sourced and planned and like organized all the costumes for Long Walk with our art department. And all these women that I have first started with are like in huge key positions now. There are women now making short films. They feel very inspired, but I do think that there's a negative effect that I have, and I feel really bad about this, but like, what can I do? And that is like a lot of young women in Lao have seen my rapid progression and they're intimidated. They think like, how can I ever do that? Like I can never be like Maddie Doe. And I'm really trying hard to like dispel that idea, because like a lot of these girls have a lot of media experience. They've worked in commercial or communication. Some of them have gone to school for this, and they look at me and they think, oh, I can't do what she's doing. But the reality is I didn't even go to school for this. I never worked in media or communications. I never worked in any way like close to film, besides like being a makeup girl in Italy once because I needed enough money to buy my point shoes. And so I always just want to put it out there that if I can do it, I mean, it's hard work. Like it's crazy hard work. I work my guts out. But if I can do it, then like you can set your mind on it and do it too. And I think that that's my biggest message to young Lao women here. And hopefully it will happen. But I think a lot of young Lao women see the progression is like this, and they're like, whoa, like I can't do that. They get shy, and they get in our language we say kaboka, like the daring. They're afraid to take that first step. They're afraid to fail. And the reality is like, I went in completely ready to fail. And I think that that's a big difference. Like if you go in, and you're ready to fail and you're aware that you're going to fail, it helps a lot, because then you take a lot of risks that you wouldn't normally take, because you're like, oh, I'm going to suck anyway. It's okay.
Maddie, thank you so much for being our badass sister and in Lao. And thank you for making history. Thank you for making films. And thank you for being fun and being here with us. So Sokti Mai, and hopefully one day we'll be able to meet in person.
I hope that you and your wife can come to Lao. I think you guys would have so much fun. Oh, and your mom, tell her like it's very hard to come back to Lao if she doesn't have a passport. Super hard to get a visa to come back. But if she can, like, it is a lot safer right now. Like she can live a completely normal life. She can go with all her little auntie friends to the market and like have dinner outside together and go to like the temple parties and stuff all the time. And like it would be paradise for an old auntie like your mom.
I'll let her know. Have a good evening, Maddie, and happy birthday again.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Bye.
Take care. So bye to you, Maddie. Oh, wow. Oh, Maddie Doe, thank you so much for putting Lao stories out there and to the global world. And all her films have garnered international praise, and we're so proud. And tonight we are so proud. So Allie and Polly, are you back with me?
Yes, we are.
I want to cheers to you and thank you, both of you, Allie and Polly, for creating the space for us to do this tonight and being a part of history and celebrating Lao New Year at the Commonwealth Club of California. And so thank you for your support. Thank you to our speakers tonight. Bobby, Alex, David, Paulung Med, and also Paulung Chanto, and for your service. This has been incredible. I'm going to have you say the last words and take it away for our big, big, big performance tonight.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Definitely Michelle, Polly, and I, we thank you so much for joining us and being a part of our virtual Lao, Thai, and Cambodian New Year celebration, right? Sokdi Pimai, right? From Ali, Polly and Associates. We wish you health, wealth, prosperity for all your financial needs. Visit us at polyassociates.com.
That's right. That's right. And now, the final performance we have waited all night for.
Right.
She's been singing and performing since she was only 12 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, isn't that amazing?
I'm ready.
Yes, she performed for large crowds of up to 80,000 audiences. Let's hear it all from Tukta tonight.
สบายดีปีใหม่ค่ะพ่อแม่พี่น้องมวนๆกับผลงานเพลงแรกนะคะสาวลำตะคองยังคอยค่ะกับน้องตุ๊กตาท็อปไลน์นะคะ Stay home stay safe นะคะ everyone ละสาวลำตะคองยังคอยอายรถกายให้ทางกังกบสองลาพี่ชายเอ่ยเคยกินข้าวหอมน้องมองทิวนางอยู่ฝั่งทางละอ้ายป้าให้หักทางสร้างบ่อแน่แทนนอคนสร้างบ่สนสิแนมนำฝั่งลำตะคองจอยน้องมือคอยอยู่เด้ออายก่อนหวานๆค่ะพี่น้องมวนไผ่มวนมันป้องกันโควิดนะคะสาวลำตะคองยังคอยผู้บ่าวตาหวานขับรถผ่านยังเคยแวะทานข้าวปลาพออิ่มแล้วไอ้เลยโบกมืออำลานานแล้วที่อ้ายบ่มาไปให้น้องถ่ายอยู่ลำตะคองคันแล้วคันเล่ากะบ่อยเงาอ้ายมาน้องยังตั้งตาห่วงใยใจลอยคอยมองคืนทั้งวันวิ่งสวนกันรถทัวร์ล่องๆแต่อ้ายคนที่ใจมองไปลำตะคองเงียบเหงาเช้าหรือใช่แกล้งลืมทางเคยแวะหรือใช่แกล้งลืมทางเคยแวะรถอาหารเส้นแท้ที่เคยยองพันหัวตัวจ่อพ่อยแต่ของทางตัวจ่อพ่อยแต่ของทางหรือหากเขามันจางอยู่ฝั่งทางค่อยจ้องมองใส่น้ำลำตะคองแดดอ่อนพี่ชายเอ้ยลืมมันเคยอ่อนๆแล้วบ่อายหาเขาเรานัดกันวันจันทร์ก็บ่เห็นมาเยี่ยมชายคาถามข้าวสาวลำตะคองคิดฮอดอายได้แต่ฉันแอบคอยมองสงสารสาวลำตะคองให้หักมาไล่มาจอดใจมันเคยอาหารบ้านเขาน้องก็เตรียมไว้รอเหนื่อยก็พอมีที่พักพิงเพื่อทายทำเป็นเช่นคนไม่คุ้นไม่เคยหรือมีสาวคอยก็เกยเอาไว้แนบบอกจึงบ่มาทำข้าวเลยป่าให้สาวลำตะคองคอยอายแรงๆน้ำร้อนแองด้วยตาไม้ย่วยๆลงรออายผู้เดียวรถและเลี้ยวมาจอดพักคุยกันเบิ่งจุจีวันมันแต่นางบ่มีอายได้แต่แนม นอทางอายมวนๆกับผลงานเพลงที่2ค่ะหัวบ่เร่าใจหัวบ่เร่าใจเปิดให้แห้งหัวอยู่งานบ้างนะจะมีเอาไว้ทำไมผัวบ่เร่าใจน้อเจ้ามือใดก็กินแต่เหล้าเฮ็ดหน้าเฒ่าๆเป็นแล้วเสียงหลายเมามานอนเมื่อสภาพน้ำกระบอกเหม็นปานแห้งตายนับมือแห้งเปิดแห้งนายผัวใส่บ่ได้การบ้านบ่ทำบัดเบิงผัวไทยบ้านเพิ่นเฮ็ดหน้าเปิ้นวันกล้ามเป็นปั้นเสียงตาแนมเบิ่งผัวฉันเมาได้ทั้งวันมือหอดคำมันกำแต่แก้วแต่ขวดโนสวดมันบ่เคยทำเว้ามาอยากปานี้ซ้ำอารมณ์นำผัวบ่เราใจมันเหมือนสภาพผัวเฮาบ่มีแนวเอาเฮ็ดหยังก็บ่ได้ข้ออ่อนแต่แบบนี้บ่ไหวถ้าเป็นจังซี่ไม่รู้จะอยู่ไปทำไมหัวบอดจัดมันเซ็งหลายอีหลีสิบ่ทนเบื่อหลายคนเมาแบบนี้บ่เอาละเด้อคอยเห็นหน้าก็อารมณ์ปล่อยแห้งจอยแห้งน้อยเหี่ยวลงทุกทีกินแต่เหล้าเป็นอาหารข้าวปลาบ่ทานเลยคุณสามีบอกบ่ฟังก็ตายโลดเด้อพี่อย่าคิดเด้อว่าอีนี่มันสิบ่มีผัวใหม่แต่แข็งแรงนะผัวใหม่คนมาเด้อเต้นเป็นมูกันเต้นอยู่ผู้เดียวอยู่ว่าคอยบ้าเด้อมันเหมือนสภาพหัวเฮาบ่มีแนวเอาเฮ็ดหยังก็บ่ได้พออ่อนแต่แซะแบบนี้บ่ไหวถ้าเป็นจังซี่ไม่รู้จะอยู่ไปทำไมหัวบ่จัดมันเซ็งหลายอีหลีสิบ่ทนเบื่อหลายคนเมาแบบนี้บ่เอาละเด้อคอยเห็นหน้าก็อารมณ์ปล่อยแห้งจอยแห้งน้อยเหี่ยวลงทุกทีกินแต่เหล้าเป็นอาหารข้าวปลาบ่ทานเลยคุณสามีบอกบ่ฟังตายโลดเด้อพี่อย่าคิดเด้อว่าอีนี่มันสิบ่มีผัวใหม่มันเหมือนยุกดยุดทนแหละนะคะหัวหลายเตะเอาที่เห็ดเนี่ยจะมาไปเศร้าเอาผัวแล้วล่ะวะไปเอาเมียขอบคุณค่ะขอให้สุขุสุขคนสุขภาพแข็งแรงอายุมันควรยืนพอกันปีใหม่ปีหน้าอีกรอบนะคะ